Good morning. Another episode of Cooper's Cogitations. We're discussing the Declaration of Independence, and we're discovering why these Christian founders rebelled against their Christian king, their Christian parliament, when Paul says, be subject to the powers that be. We have discovered, according to the Declaration of Independence, that the king and parliament, though Christian, violated the laws of nature, natural law, and the laws of nature's God, the Bible. So even though these are legal enactments, they were not lawful. This is crucial. Today in America, 99.5%, and I may be low, of all legal enactments are not lawful. They violate the laws of nature. They violate the laws of nature's God as contained in the Bible, and they violate the Constitution. In the Declaration of Independence, we are discussing how all men are equal. This issue, we're talking about equal before the law. Leviticus 24:22, ye shall have one manner of law as well for the stranger as one for your own country, for I am the Lord your God. Illegals that come here are treated as citizens, except for the fact that they're illegal, and if they're caught, they should be exported. If they commit a crime, another crime other than violating our immigration laws, then they need to be tried here in America. We should not send them back to their country, because many times nothing happens and they come back to create more crime. Take care of the issue. It says right here, as well for the stranger as one for your own country. Leviticus 19:15, you shall do no unrighteousness in judgment. Thou shalt not respect the person of the poor, nor honor the person of the mighty, but in righteousness shalt thou judge thy neighbor. Folks, too often in America today, you're not equal before the law. Your race, your gender, your political party, your political position, as long as it's not violent, are factors. Your money, your status in the community, to whom you contribute for their political campaigns. It's very difficult to receive justice in America. Righteousness in judgment. Oftentimes these legal enactments violate our rights, our natural rights. I have a right to own my property and to control my own property. But if I don't do it according to the government's dictates, they can fine me, they can incarcerate me, they can steal my property. Frederick Bastian law would call it legal plunder. Leviticus 25:17, ye shall not therefore oppress one another, but thou shalt fear the Lord thy God. I am the Lord your God. Wherefore ye shall do my statutes, keep my judgments, and do them. Ye shall dwell safely in the land. As long as we do God's commandments, we love God, we love ourselves, and we love our neighbor. It says it all over the Bible. 1 John. When we break God's commandments, it shows we do not love God. We really do not love ourselves. We are living in some sort of dark religion where we spin in circles and do whatever we do, but we don't do what's right or good. We live in a fantasy, we live in a lie. He wants us to do what's right. We have to keep his commandments. They're just and they're equitable. When violators are brought before court of original or appellate jurisdiction, the only consideration is behavior. They either did it or they didn't. And then we might consider intent. We might. Not all men are equal in opportunity, but we do have an equal opportunity to accept the salvation of God, the immortality. But not everyone is equal, but everyone will hear in the spirit world before Judgment Day. Now, if God's commandments require all trials with judges to be judged righteously, all individuals are judged whether they violated the law or not. It follows that legislature, those who make the laws, no one else makes the laws but legislatures, regardless of executive enactments or decrees or federal agencies or decrees. Those aren't laws. They're not even legal. They violate legal and lawful enactments. Taking property from one individual or class of people, giving it to another who has not earned it, is theft. Covered by the commandment, thou shalt not steal, biblical law, Cooper's Cogitations. Telling individuals they can and cannot do with their land is a violation of their liberty. And perhaps theft. Taking money for future retirement is also theft. What gives me the right to tell another person how to use their money? What happens if I die before I receive my money back with proper interest? Where does my money go? If I live longer than the money they stole from me last, with interest, but I still receive money, from whom was it stolen? I'm the recipient of stolen goods. Returning to the declaration that they are endowed by their Creator. In the first instance, God's our legislature. He gave us laws. In this instance, the founders referred to him as our Creator, the executor, the executor of the laws. So we have in God so far a legislature and an executor in God with certain unalienable rights. And these rights are found in the natural law and in the laws of God, written and unwritten, the revelations of God, the Bible. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. First of all, the commandment, thou shalt not murder. God gives us a life, therefore he expects us to use our life to benefit and to develop the godly order. And if I take your life in a murder, then you can't fulfill your godly order, and I have violated it. Now, we've discussed that killing is different than murder. You break into someone's home at night and kill them, that's murder. If when you break into a person's home, he kills you, that's self-defense. It's justifiable. It's a commandment to defend your life, liberty, and property. What about a person who's texting him while driving and runs over a child, kills him? This is not premeditated, though there are thousands, hundreds of cases where this has happened. Creating harm by texting and driving. You should have known and not text and drive. Without premeditation, this is punishable nonetheless. It's not murder, but it's punishable. He that smiteth the man so that he die shall surely be put to death. If a man lie not in wait, then will I appoint thee a place whither he shall flee. Folks, it was texting and driving. It's not a premeditated death. then the victim's family needs to say, I want some restitution, money is paid. If they say no, I want the guy's life, then the perpetrator has, according to the Bible, the right to leave town and go to a city of refuge and there stay until he dies. If he leaves, then the victim's family have a right to execute him. Biblical law. You may not terminate another's life, which includes the life of an unborn child. That's murder. God gives us the liberty, the privilege of choosing. Choosing incorrectly, theft, for instance, must be punished on an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth principle. That's not, as Gandhi would say, would leave the world blind and toothless. What it does, it indicates a one-to-one correspondence. Crime, punishment. You take a life, you forfeit your life. You take property, you have to return property, plus a little extra to help you understand not to do it again. You take an oath, and then you pay the government a pittance for expenses. Okay? Today, and this is covered in the biblical law, we take an individual who has a property crime, we put him in jail, we take his liberty, we take his economic viability, we wreck his family, we destroy his political sovereignty and political abilities, we endanger his life, we endanger his person. It's what, a 6 or 7 to 1? That's not just. Is that man stealing, as the Bible says? Is that man stealing? And the man thief shall die. What's our responsibility for allowing prisons and not protesting prisons? Pursuit of happiness is defined by the founders as the right to own and control your own property. If you can't control your property, you don't own it. Remember Exodus 20, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not covet, thou shalt not bear false witness, all of which violates the pursuit of happiness. The biggest criminal of all time, which has stolen more property, murdered more individuals, and trampled more individual liberty, is government. The founders knew that and took safeguards to prevent duplication here in America. But over the centuries, because of our negligence, because of our not reading the Bible, not understanding the natural law, not reading the Constitution, abandoning our obligations, those crimes committed by this government, and we are not only slaves, owning nothing. Our elections are stolen, our military abused and killed unnecessarily. Cooper's Cogitations Biblical Law. Citizens are abused, robbed, and murdered by my quote, law enforcement agencies, end quote. The government is even involved in our food, medical choices, education, a man's home, and his heritage. We are not Christian enough to duplicate the founders